I hear your kitty.
Yeah, she gets so mad when I'm doing things like this and ignoring her.
Sounds familiar. Like my daughter. And my cats. And really like everyone in the house, actually. Okay, looks good. Hello out there. We're going to get started in just a minute. Just testing out for a second before we get going. Oop, Liz, you're muted. Oh, are you intentionally muted? Okay. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started in just a minute. Just making sure we're all set up. Liz is wielding two zooms for some two zoom action. And if you are noticing any audio problems, please let us know in the chat. We're always trying to be vigilant about that. Okay, it's noon, so why don't we get started? This is part of our series of Well Now What the Fuck events. Well Now What the Fuck, if you have come here from some other means other than our website, is an online exhibition of over, I think we're up to over 120 different moving image artists. It is curated by myself, Lorna Mills, and Wade Wallerstein. And I am happy today to welcome Liz Sales to do a bedroom obscura workshop for us. Before we get started on that, I'm just going to let you know we have other workshops coming up. So next on May 12th, which is Tuesday at 2 p.m., is Come to My Window, a collection of readings hosted by Nicole Killian, featuring Chino Amobi, Ray Carlson, Shanae Michelin Holloway, Ty Little, and Maisie Maddie. So please come to that. And I just want to remind everyone that the exhibition, as well as these events, are run by donations. So if you go to Well Now What the Fuck, and I'll put a link in the chat, go ahead and click on that donate button, and please send some money Liz's way. All of the donations that are collected today will go directly to Liz minus PayPal's fees. We suggest that you give a $5 donation for attending the workshop. Okay, and so without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Liz. Liz is an artist, art writer, and educator. She was an editor at Conveyor magazine and writes for Mercuria and Foam magazine. She's taught at the International Center of Photography, City University of New York, and the University of Connecticut, and is the author of the book I Write Artist Statements. She spent a year living in a camera obscura in Brooklyn that was open to the public by appointment. She currently lives and works in Philadelphia. So thank you, Liz, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is fun. So I was going to start by showing you guys some camera obscuras that I've made in the past, and then I'll go upstairs, that's the other camera you're seeing, and show you how to make one in your bedroom. So I'm going to share my screen. This is the first camera that I made in 2009. I started out by making it out of a bunch of copies of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with holes cut in them and a marble. But I didn't get a lot of images that I really liked, so I ended up using a crystal ball inside of a box with a 4x5 film holder. And then the images that I got sort of looked like this, where the aberrations in the lens and the refracted light became part of the image. And then I didn't like carrying around a backpack full of crystal balls anymore. And so I wanted to sort of like integrate my home and my studio and my project. And so I ended up turning my bedroom into a camera obscura after seeing the camera obscura in San Francisco that's now part of the Exploratorium. And so what I did was I walled off my windows. We're going to use cardboard, but I actually did something kind of permanent like this. And then I used a diopter that is like reading glasses or diopters, or the macro extension that you screw onto the front of the lens is a diopter. A magnifying glass is a diopter. So I used a diopter with a pretty long throw. It had like a throw of like 10 feet, but you can just use a hole. And I walled off my windows and I installed the diopter. And then it was like being inside of a camera, right? Like this is the technology that allows you to see. And it's also the technology that is bringing you my image right now. Just basically, camera obscura, I think means dark chamber. And any sort of box with a hole in it is a camera. A camera is a naturally occurring phenomenon, and something you can make pretty easily. And so that is the shuttle train station across the street from the apartment that I lived in for almost 2 decades in Brooklyn. It's inverted, it's upside down. That's the way you see as well, right? Light travels in a straight line from its source, in this case, the sun, and then it bounces off objects, and then it bounces in through the lens or the hole. You can just use a hole today if you want to, and projects an image naturally onto the inside walls. And that's how your cell phone camera works too. So then I installed another lens in the smaller window, and I made that a permanent structure too. I actually left it there when I left, so I wonder what they thought of it. And then I hung a curtain because that lens didn't have quite as high of a throw, so I just like hung a curtain, and then the image was projected onto that curtain. And interestingly, the two images didn't really interfere with each other very much because they were pointed perpendicular. This is the most recent camera obscura project that I've been working on. It's basically a mobile tent that I've been making with Carmel Simmons. It is a 10 by 10 foot tent, and we sewed a blackout curtain around it so that it's like a light tight structure with a hole to let light in. And the idea is that it functions, it's called the tabernacle. And the idea is that it brings camera obscura to you. There's a sheet in the middle. It's actually just a shower curtain. And a shower curtain acts like a two-way projection screen so that you can sit on one side, have the lens on the other side, and look at the image. So let's see. I'll show you guys what it looks like when we actually built it. So this is just like a canopy, right? Like a pop-up tent structure. That's tarp on the bottom. We sewed ripstock originally for the four walls and the roof. And then, yeah, what's up? If you've got like 2 or 3 people, it takes maybe like 15 minutes. It took us many months to sew it. So if you mean to make it from scratch, many months. And if you mean to just set it up once it already exists, like under 20 minutes. Obviously, this project is somewhat on hold because I don't think that there are too many people who want to hang out in a 10 foot by 10 foot sealed container with me right now, or with anybody else. Then we ended up making it light tighter because the ripstock was light tight enough for viewing, but not light tight enough for making exposures with paper negatives using darkroom paper. So we ended up getting blackout curtain and giving it a second shell. And now it looks like this. We've taken it out some places. This is Coney Island. I'll show you guys a little video before I go upstairs of what it looks like inside.
What do you love about it?
Listen, I'm running every morning. I'm usually running on the boardwalks, but during the warm, like summertime, I'm running along the border. It's beautiful. First, actually, sunset now, or sunrise. So you can see, you can see from the border. When during the in April and May, it's moving behind the buildings, so you cannot really say. Did you see? No, today of course not. But like last few days were pretty clear. Sun coming up. It's something. No, I mean it's everything.
Oh, yeah.
Sunset.
Nature is beautiful, but people don't care about it.
Also, like it's very convenient place. Like transportation, everything is like really close to Ocean Parkway. Everything there, and it's convenient from Russia, so it's very convenient for you. For all the like a lot of things. This amusement park, I guess, for kids. I like. We used to live in Berich. That's why.
What do you love about it?
So that's us inside of the pop-up tent Obscura, talking to some folks about how they feel about Coney Island. So I'm hoping when shelter in place is over and it's safe to start working on this again, we can. But in the meantime, I've been turning my bedroom into a camera obscura, which is super easy to do. So I'll show you some different ways to do it. I'm gonna go upstairs now. Okay, see you in a sec.
Liz is just gonna switch between her Zooms, and she's gonna conduct the rest of the workshop from this room, and you can kind of see already that she's got some things set up. Okay, here she is. I'm gonna give it back to her.
All right, thanks for bearing with me. So I'm upstairs, I'm in my bedroom. What I started to do was block off that window. I did the top with tinfoil and the bottom with cardboard. You can use anything that's opaque, so cardboard, poster board, tinfoil. What doesn't work typically is sheets. Blackout curtain does. And then you basically need, if you want to make a pinhole camera, a knife or scissors and some kind of tape. If you use duct tape, you're probably going to mess up your walls, but you can. If you use paper tape, you're definitely not going to mess up your walls, but your construction will not last more than a couple of hours, which might be fine for you. The thing that I like to use the best, which is a little bit expensive, is camera tape, because it holds really well, but it doesn't mess up your walls. A sort of alternative to that is also electrical tape, which is a little harder to cut with your fingers, but it tends to not mess up your space unless it gets hot, and it's light tight electrical tape. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut some cardboard to go on top. You need to be in a room with a door that closes and at least one window facing the outside world. You probably have already guessed this, but it won't work in a basement. You need sunlight. It won't work in a room with a window that's facing another room. But it will work in anything facing the outside world, including your car. You can actually do this in your car. One of the things I love about making a camera obscura is that it makes any view interesting. So I'll show you mine. It's basically like a city block and the facade of an empty warehouse. But inside a camera obscura, it becomes kind of magical. Look for all these things later, like that van and the poles and the Cedar Street sign. All right, so The next thing I'm going to do is cut some cardboard to go up. So sometimes I just use like my physical body as measuring tape. I actually have some measuring tape over here, but it's like that long. And then I'm just going to take my box cutter and use my bed as a table. And pour it and turn it over. And then cut it for realsies. And then put the blade of my box cutter away. And then I'm going to head up on top of my end table. And I'm going to rip off just like one piece of tape to hold it up. And then the chances of this falling down while we're working on it are not non-existent. All right. Then the next thing I want to do is make the lens mount as sort of its own separate piece of cardboard. I think that that works best so that you can move it around and see where you want to place the lens, sort of within the architectural design of your physical space, because sometimes it's nice to have the sunset like right behind your bed. Oh, also, if you go to Reddit threads, they'll say that you need north light in order to do this. You need a north-facing window so that your light is even. I guess that's true if you're trying to get really consistent exposures, but I actually like to face east or west. That way you can watch the sunset inside your room, which is kind of magical. All right, so. I'm going to cheat a little bit and use this pre-cut piece because I don't have another piece that's perfect. All right, so this is a piece of cardboard I cut some holes in. I walled a bunch of them off with these little flaps that I'm going to use like shutters, and then just like left one open. So if I take that up, I can sort of already start to see the outside world, especially right now, the clouds. It looks like there's a lot of like really sort of nice white fluffy clouds against the blue sky. And then there's this sort of laborious process, taping down the cardboard everywhere until you're not seeing any light coming out anymore at all. If your image is not so great, it's probably because you have light coming out somewhere. Also, in terms of hole size, right, like what size the aperture in your board should be in order to get the best image, I would say just experiment. What I found is that the larger the hole is, the brighter the image is, but the less resolved the image is, right? It's the less detail. So a big hole gives you a bright image without a lot of detail that you need to let your eyes adjust to, and a smaller hole gives you a lot of detail. Ooh, a car just drove by. A smaller hole gives you a lot of detail, but a darker image. If you want to get the exact size that the hole should be in order to be like optimized for the size of your room, there are about 8 million Reddit threads that'll tell you that. I kind of go trial and error. So I'm gonna wait for a car to drive by and then I'll show it to you. But basically, I'm not sure if you can see this. That's the sky. Those are the clouds. There's like a telephone pole in there. If I make the hole smaller, the image will get a little sharper, but a little darker. And so now I'm just going to take a minute and finish making the space super dark. That way we'll get a clearer image. And then after this, we're going to talk about things you can possibly use as lenses in order to get like a sharper image. So that's like a little bit better. And then if I made it a pinhole, it would be better than that. But in the meantime, what I want to do is talk about some things you can use as lenses. If you're interested in getting like a super sharp image, and you can use really, really random things as lenses. So anything that bends light, right? You can use a magnifying glass. You can use, I have this pair of reading glasses that we're going to use. I have diopters, like you'd screw onto the front of a camera. I have the front of a flashlight. If you unscrew the front of a flashlight, it typically focuses to about 6 feet. So I put the fronts of flashlights and diopters inside these little pouches that Velcro onto the wall. And so I'm going to give that a try by taking my lens board off, and then instead of having holes that give you a kind of like painterly image, I'm going to mount some found lenses to them. All right, here you go. And then I'm probably going to make this a little less crazy looking too. Okay. So, I have like, this is from the eyeglasses, and I just taped it on there, and then taped a flap of blackout fabric in front of it. I'm going to take what was just a hole, and then I put a diopter, and I'm just going to tape the diopter over the hole and hope that it holds. The reason I made a little sort of like flap for the diopter is so that it can be a shutter. So like if later I want to use some photo paper and expose it on my wall, I can use a timer and this flap to sort of open my shutter and expose the paper and then close my shutter. Oh, it's getting bright out. So then that's my lens board, and that's a diopter, and that's some reading glasses. And then I'm going to see if you can see if I can find that photo. There it is. I might use it just because it might be a little bit faster. In terms of like getting a really dark space. Sorry. So I'm just going to tape it down so that there's no light coming out anywhere. It's sort of hard to do gracefully, so I'm not going to try. I don't know if anybody has experienced this, but a lot of times camera obscuras occur naturally. Like there'll be a little rip in your curtain, and all of a sudden you'll see taxi cabs going by and you see them. All right, I think I did a better job this time of blocking out all the light. Yeah. Yes, because tinfoil is faster. I like cardboard a little bit better because I feel like it lasts a little bit longer, right? Like it doesn't get a rip and you don't have to constantly patch it. But I sort of noticed that even though I had to set up a little bit in advance, it was taking me a minute to find all of the light leaks with the cardboard. And I thought that might be something that people didn't want to watch me do for a very long time. No. I assume that it would if you were in a really small space because it would start to act like a bounce card. But in larger spaces, I haven't seen it be a huge deal. It does matter for your neighbors, by which I mean it's pretty dark in a camera obscura. You know, like tinfoil is reflective, like a bounce card, but it's not reflecting much. It is a problem for your neighbors. In fact, once I did this when my mom was living in Florida in her apartment building, and I got a call from the front desk that I had basically, I was basically bouncing like a hot ray of sunlight into somebody else's apartment. But there's a warehouse across the street, so I think we'll be okay. Oh yeah, someone was telling me that. Okay, so I'm gonna put this, oh, the other thing about tinfoil is, I'm actually really glad you asked that. The other thing about tinfoil is you have to, it'll stick to your windows if you leave it up for more than like 2 or 3 hours. You know, if you just leave tinfoil up for days, it'll like adhere to the glass on your windows. And that's probably something that you don't want. But it is really fast. All right. So I'm taping this lens board back up. And by lens board, I just mean the piece of cardboard that I cut holes into and have now taped a found lens to. Well, I guess 2 found lenses to. Okay. So I'm going to turn off this little lamp because that's creating ambient light too. And now all the light coming into the room is coming in through the diopter. And I'll show you guys what that looks like. So I did a very sort of sloppy job, but there's the building kitty corner. There's the sky. It's getting a little cloudy, so it's darker, but you can see the traffic poles, the sign. Here's a traffic pole. There's some cars parked right there. This is the van that we saw out the window. And if we're lucky, some people will walk by. Oh, it's getting a little bit brighter. And then if I wanted to see what the reading glasses looked like, I would close the flap on the diopter. And tape up the flap on the reading glasses. And the flap on the reading glasses, they're +1 reading glasses, so they're a sort of diopter of their own, by which I just mean a single element lens. So I have to sort of like move this whole thing up so that they're not in a weird spot in the window. And then I'm still getting some light leaks that if I wanted to make an exposure with a paper negative, I'd have to spend some serious time getting rid of. But we're just using this as a viewing device, so I'm not going to. But because I'm using reading glasses, +1 reading glasses, they're not going to focus all the way to my back wall. And so like neither will a flashlight lens or a magnifying glass. They're only going to focus a few feet. So you can do one of two things. I have this bounce card. I can set up a flange focal distance of a few feet. Flange focal distance is the distance from the back element of your lens to your image plane. So this is going to be our image plane. You can also hang a shower curtain, and that works as a two-way projection screen, or you can just hang a sheet, and that works as a one-way projection screen, just by like tacking it to your ceiling if you don't care about holes in your ceiling. So let's see. Okay, so I'm holding this bounce card, and then you can see the image on it. And then different lenses are going to require you to set up curtains or screens in different spots. So like these reading glasses are pretty close. That's about a foot. So you can even sort of hang up a shower curtain as a curtain in front of your diopters, and then they'll project images onto the shower curtain. As many holes as you make, you'll make images. So you can have multiple images. They do sort of cross-contaminate each other, right? Like they do dilute each other, but you can make them simultaneously project, and you'll still be able to see all of them.
Hey Liz, if you're just using a hole because you don't have any of these lenses hanging around, where would you want to, like, is that a shallow throw? Is that a long throw?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's neither. So the thing about pinhole, which is cool, is that it has, if you're just making a hole, what you're doing is you're turning your bedroom into a pinhole camera, right? Like as opposed to a lens camera. So if you're just making a hole, you have infinite back focus, which means you don't need to hang a screen anywhere. You'll have an image without a lot of detail, but it'll be in focus regardless of the size of your room.
Oh, cool.
That said, light diminishes in inverse squares. So if for some reason your room is 40 feet wide,
like if I live in a palace?
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have a pretty unresolved image. But yeah, if you have a regular size room, and by regular size I mean like anything from 6 feet to 15 feet, and you cut a hole really of any size, then you're going to be able to see an image. If you want a really sharp image that focuses to any size, use a pinhole. You can actually cut a pinhole in either tinfoil if you don't want it to last long, or you can order copper foil online and then cut a pretty perfect pinhole into it. And if you do that, you'll have a really dark but very sharp image that your eyes have to adjust to. And if you want like a bright image that you see all the time, you can cut a hole that's like up to between like 1 and 3 inches. What I would do is cut a bunch of holes and experiment with them and see what happens. Yeah. So that's basically making a camera obscura.
I love the cars on your ceiling.
I love the cars too. What I really love is when there's people in the street talking to each other and I can hear what they're saying and then see the tops of their heads.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to questions in that case. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
I'm going to start with my own question, selfishly. So I have my entire apartment is north facing, which apparently Reddit says is perfect. But I also don't get a lot of light, and I'm wondering like if it's dark outside just because of like trees and urban density, is it still possible to make this work?
Yes. I've never been anywhere where it absolutely didn't work. I assume it would not work if you can't see any sunlight at all. When I lived in a camera obscura, it was dimmer in the winter and brighter in the summer. But I could always see an image. The only time that year that I didn't see an image was when snow had covered the lens.
I like that. Okay, we have a question. What did you learn from spending years in Obscura?
Oh,
I like the way that question's phrased.
Yeah, I learned a lot about. So I had lived in my apartment for over a decade, and then I built. A camera obscura, and I had really never seen what was outside my windows because, I don't. We live in an age where people don't gaze out the window, and so I had lived there for a very long time, and I lived across the street from the Brooklyn shuttle train stop. And I learned a lot about the behavior of the people who wait for the Brooklyn shuttle train. So there was a guy in a red coat who would pace every day. There were some other people who would always stand in the same spot, and I recognized them by their sort of shape and hair. I learned a lot about how the sun moves and sets in slightly different places throughout the year in a way that was very unscientific, right? Like it's set near the door in the summer and it's set near the corner of the room in the winter.
I love that, like, different scale measurement.
Yeah, it was like intuitive measuring. Oh, I also learned that I'm a restless sleeper because I had a time-lapse camera going for most of the year. And I thought that I slept like pretty much lying still. But apparently I just toss and turn all night.
I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what you did with the camera obscura. Like, you've talked a little bit about making exposures and having it open to the public, but like, what kinds of projects were you doing? I know you can like draw from it. I'm wondering if you did anything with that.
Yeah, I made exposures and I drew from it, and then I also invited people to come look at it. And the people who did were usually teachers bringing their classes and parents who homeschool their kids. I can talk to you guys a little bit about drawing, right? It's people use devices similar to these, right? Like they use camera obscuras and camera lucidas to draw, especially in the 17th century. They're a good way to sort of trace one-point perspective. So if I go like that, and then
Liz, we can't see you.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm just taking this lens.
Okay.
So can you guys see the image?
Yeah.
Cool. So if I wanted to draw that, I could just like take a piece of paper like this and rip it off and like tack it to the wall up here. And then get a pencil and make sure I'm not blocking the view. And then sort of start tracing it like a Dutch master.
Right, don't people argue whether or not Vermeer painted this way?
Yeah, totally. But the people who think he didn't are wrong. Um, there's a really great documentary on Netflix called Tim's Vermeer, where a special effects guy named Tim recreates a Vermeer painting using sort of like combo camera lucida, camera obscura like device. It's using 5 years.
Wow.
He is, he builds the space to look exactly like the Vermeer painting, and then builds the apparatus, and then sort of like turns himself into a machine that's painting a Vermeer. Um, there's a pretty great book about that called Secret Knowledge by David Hockney.
What exactly is a camera lucida as opposed to the camera obscura?
It's, I hope I don't get this wrong. It's like a prism-like device that you look through that allows you to see both your paper and a projected image, and so you sort of like on off it.
Oh, so is that more like how a SLR functions, like a mirrored SLR?
Yeah, if you sort of like deconstructed it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is like it's like sort of seeing a camera that's half evident and half inevident, whereas being in a camera obscura is like being inside of a camera.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And is there a way to flip the image right side up?
Yes. Although it's not easy and I don't have the stuff to do it well, you can do it with a prism and a mirror.
Yeah, I was wondering actually how that mirror you have on that back wall affects it, if at all.
I mean, it probably affects it in that it's making the light a little diffuse, right? Because there's like light pointed at a mirror that's reflecting it everywhere.
Right.
But it's not reflecting an image in the way that putting a mirror close to the lens would invert the image at a 45-degree angle.
Nope.
Yeah, I just traced a little telephone pole.
That's great.
Did anybody else have any other questions, or did they try it and want to show us?
We've got another question. Are you aware of any other artists who are using camera obscuras to make art?
Oh yeah, like a million. So, I mean, the one that Zoe Leonard did in both the Whitney and then later galleries was a really nice example of someone using it as like a space that was open to the public. Abel Morel does, like pictures from inside of camera obscuras built in hotel rooms and other spaces, but then he also made a tent with a lens and parabolic mirror that goes down onto the ground so that the image and the like earth or pavement beneath it is sort of part of the image that he then creates inside of it with a camera. Let's see.
I think Gibson Recorder, the duo, I think they've done some work with camera obscuras.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I had this really great book, since you asked, that I was going to show you, but it's not like immediately evident to me on my bookshelf, so I'm not going to make you guys watch me look for it.
But it's a book on camera obscuras?
No, it's, I was looking for this. I love this book, Guest. That is just like a million little pinholes pointed at the sun, so that it's this sort of like large camera obscura with a bunch of apertures, and then the image of the person pictured is created by taking just like hundreds or maybe even thousands of pictures of the sun.
Wow. I'm not sure I totally absorbed how that works, but it sounds amazing.
Anything else?
Any other questions? I'm curious about like living in the obscura. Like, It must
Yeah,
have-
it made I really loved it. It was like living in a living mural. And it made everything really interesting to me. So I'd watch, like, I once, this sounds sort of so cheesy, but I watched a plastic bag that was rustling in a tree for many hours once because it was very interesting. There's something kind of magical about it. And when I would turn the lights on in my bedroom, you know, like when it wouldn't be there, the space felt really drab to me. And I would like miss it while it was gone. There's something, there's like a kind of Mr. Wizard magic to being inside a camera obscura, where you have an understanding of how light functions in a way that feels more wordless than someone explaining it to you.
I love that. We've got one more question, which is, how did your cat react to living in the Obscura?
Oh, so she was totally nonplussed by it.
Really?
Unless something was moving.
Okay.
So if something was moving, like if people were moving back and forth, she would try and chase them like a laser light pointer.
Yeah.
But when I first set it up and nothing was moving, I was sort of shocked by how little she cared.
She was just like, okay, this is like a wall decoration, nothing more.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. I think maybe that's it for questions. Thank you so much. This was
thank you.
so beautiful, and I'm really excited to try it. Actually, I guess, Liz, you had a question for others, which is like, did anyone try this while we were going? I think maybe that's pretty hard to do simultaneously. I feel like this is kind of a like stop the stream and go do it, but did anyone try while you were watching? Don't think
No.
so.
Okay.
I can't imagine doing it simultaneously personally.
Well, if you do it, message me a picture because I'd love to see.
Cool. Yes. So please, if you follow these instructions, send us a photo so we can see what you come up with. And I think with that, we're gonna leave off. Thanks so much, Liz. That was great. It was really fun.
Oh, thank you.
Bye. Talk soon. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.